today is sometimes we need more time in the mud. Just like these plants, sometimes we just need a little extra time. I wasn't sure how to talk about a fig tree. I did a little research, and I'm sure you seasoned churchgoers have learned a thing or two about fig trees. We're commonly reminded in our society of productivity that Jesus got so mad at the fig tree, he said, cut it down, right? And he gets mad at fig trees if they're unproductive, and even Isaiah gets mad at things that aren't producing fruit. I'm going to cut it down to the bare root. And it's easy for people, especially pastors, come to church or I'm going to cut you down, right? It's easy to focus on that part of the fig tree lesson. But today in Luke, we have a special parable, and this parable is a little bit different than the others. Yes, it's about a fig tree, but Jesus doesn't say, just cut it down. In fact, it's quite the opposite. And in true Lukean fashion, it's a story of its own. There's no other story in the gospel like this one. It's something different. Now we know of Luke because Luke was the weirdo that went and wrote down women's names. Who would bother with such a thing? And Luke went around talking about healing and love because his second career was a doctor. Luke's gospel looks at life a little bit different. And Luke took the time to write this gospel down. And history will tell us, we're not quite sure what was happening there about the two blood and the mixture on the altars, but we do know the Herod that was there from Josephine historians would talk about how evil this guy was. In fact, how evil was this new Herod's son? He was so evil and violent, even the Romans said that was too much and took his job away. Could you imagine being so violent that Rome of all countries said, too much? This was a bad guy. Very bad. He was known for taking money that was intended to be built for the temple, money that was intended to help the church grow, let's say do a church boiler, and he took the money for the church boiler and built an aqueduct. Now the church people were not happy that they lost the money for the boiler because it's very cold in the desert apparently, and they're freezing and they want their money back and they want it back for the church. So you know what Herod does? Does this really fun thing. He has his soldiers pretend to be like the crowd. So they get dressed up like everybody else. And then at the opportune moment, he gives a signal and the soldiers in the crowd kill everybody at the protest. Yes, that's how evil this Herod guy was. So we're talking about somebody very bad. Now let's say you're a neighbor to somebody living under this ruler, right? You have but two choices here. You could be a neighbor and be kind and be thinking about what the other people are going through and how they're suffering and how you can help. Or you could just gossip and say they're terrible people. They're not doing it correctly. Because truthfully, it's much easier to judge somebody than it is to walk in their own shoes. Now, Jesus could have gone into that very strong argument. Jesus could have laid it out and said, you guys all know what Herod's like. Why are you doing this? But he takes a side moment. He asks in the first part for them to reflect. Why do you think bad things are happening to them? What did they do to deserve bad things? And he's challenging, since the beginning of Job, mind you, that bad things do in fact happen to good people. In fact, bad things doesn't happen to just good people. They happen to mediocre people, right? Like people just living paycheck to paycheck, bad things happen to. Bad things happen to somebody who barely finishes their chores. Bad things happen to folks of all classes, races, sizes, you name it, abilities, bad things happen. And Jesus wants them to take a side step, reflect on that truth, maybe remember a little of Job. I did nothing wrong. as his friends insist he must have? Jesus says no. But then let's look at this parable of the fig tree. And this would have related, because remember, Jerusalem's the city. Jesus is talking to the neighbors. So these are all the country bumpkin around the city, right? The country bumpkin gossiping about, I don't know, California, right? We're all standing around pointing the finger and saying, evil, evil, naughty, bad, right? So Jesus tells a parable that would make sense to these farmers. Now, most of the farmers in Jesus' time did not own their land. They were tenant farmers or slaves. They just basically got to work on the farm, eat some food, and create children who will work on the farm in the next generation. They did not own the land. Now, any of you ever work at a job you don't own and think, if I owned this place, I could do it 10 times better? They had that same sentiment. If I was the owner of this vineyard, if I was the owner of these fig trees, I could make it grow better. I could do it right. And we have a rich landowner who's just looking around trying to get profits, and he's making bad financial decisions. For we know it takes longer than 3 years for a fig tree to grow figs. In fact, there's this old saying that you don't pluck the fruit in the 4th year because it's uncircumcised. Do you know what that means? We know generally, as Jewish folk, Christians, uncircumcised means not yet. You're not ready yet, right? You're not clean. And that was their way to basically say, don't eat the fruit for the first few years, right? Give it some time. Don't even look at it. It's uncircumcised. Let God handle it. We'll come back to it later when it goes through puberty. After that, we'll have a talk. Give it some time. Any other here can think of a fruit or a tree that you need to leave alone for it to produce? Right? I'm thinking of specifically, I love asparagus. Big asparagus fan. Asparagus is one that you have to leave in the ground. You can't just pick it up the next year. These plants, if our cats don't eat them, will produce some food. But asparagus, it takes time. It takes time. Fruit takes time. The house we bought has fruit trees, and I was super excited. The one old apple crisp tree, she's producing great. She just needed some limbs cut back. The other trees, baby trees. The fruit, very hard. Does feel a little uncircumcised. Not great fruit. So we're just going to leave those trees for a little bit. Set them off to the side. But in a few years, they will produce. And they will feed not just one family, but 2 families and many families. And it'll be a place of blessing. But it needs time. Anybody here need time to heal and sit in the mud and be depressed before you can produce anything good? Yeah. Sometimes you just need to have a pity party. And that's good too. There's nothing wrong with a pity party. Sometimes we need to just name it for what it is. This hurts. This sucks. This isn't fair. This is terrible. And that's good. To name it for what it is. To be honest with your God. This time doesn't feel good. No, I'm not giving you any figs today. No, you're on your own for dinner tonight. I'm having my pity party. And God doesn't just say it's allowed, but God is literally saying in this text, this is what your God does for you. He is here waiting for you, giving you time to come on your own. We don't worship a manipulative, angry God going around slashing orchards, which was a Methodist thing, but we won't get into that. We have a God that takes their time to process, to reflect, to let us be sad. I wasn't sure how I would talk about it, but God works in strange ways. I volunteer at my son's school in 2nd grade, and I read books to little kids. And I enjoy this little time. I asked Braden if he wanted me to volunteer in his class. He said no very quickly, so I think he's at that age where mom in the classroom is not cool. But I go to the school because I'm not a fan of the philosophy of if something's not working, defund it, right? There was that big movement. The police are terrible, defund the police. The education's terrible, defund the education. I don't think that philosophy works. I think if something's not working, rather than just cut it down, we need to spend more time with them. We need to get to know them intimately. We need to surround them in love. So here I'm at his little school and I'm volunteering and reading, and God works in mysterious ways. And I kid you not, the book that I'm reading with the kids over and over, because that's how the rotation works, so I read the same story multiple times, was about a fig tree. Rowan, what was the name of the little boy in the fig tree?
The stories Julian tells.
The stories Julian tells. And Julian is this little African-American boy with a wild imagination, and he has all these experiences. And this week we learned about his experience with a fig tree. He was kind of getting annoyed because his brother was growing faster than him. And so he had read that fig trees will help you grow fast. So Julian plants a fig tree. But every time the fig tree pops a new little green leaf, Julian comes over, plucks the leaf, and eats it. And so for 2 years, he eats the leaves of the fig tree. And he thinks it's working great, and Julian kind of has this funny, comical way in the book stories. The dad says, oh no, something's wrong with this tree, and the boy's worried that, he might think it was him. And the dad says, oh, it just has bad soil. Julian was relieved. Oh, Dad didn't notice I've been eating the fig tree leaves. So Dad puts new soil in around the fig tree, and then the next year Dad says, well, the fig tree's still not producing. I'm not sure what's going on, very kind of reflective of the gospel. And Julian's worried, oh no, Dad's going to know it was me not eating the leaves. And he says, Dad, stop, wait. It's my fig tree. If I want it to live, it gets to live. Still, Julian doesn't admit to his dad he's been eating the leaves. But Julian has enough restraint, he doesn't eat the leaves. The story wasn't about the fig tree, the story was about the little boy. The little boy's insecurity to be faster, stronger than his brother, to grow taller. And like Julian, today's gospel is not about growing an orchard. The story is about us. It's about community. It's about digging a hole around a tree, filling it with nutrients and things that seem strange like manure. And I don't think it was a coincidence that Jesus told this story, because I do think there's just times in life where we feel like we're stuck in the mud. There's no ifs, ands, or good ways about it. If there's anything we've learned from an incarnate God, it's that when Jesus got here, he realized that, yes, sometimes being a human is stinky, smelly, not fun. And so he talks the story about surrounding it with community, with nutrients, with giving it time, all the way around. And so here we have Galilee in the middle. And there's these Jewish folks are saying, they're not following the rules, they're not doing it right. And Jesus doesn't make it about them, but rather about the community that surrounds them. In the story, notice though, at the end, does Jesus guarantee in the 4th year it produces figs? No. There's no guarantee in the gospel, just instruction. Give them time. Love on them. Care for them. No guarantee it's going to work, but we're going to try it anyway. Also in the story, it is notable that they say, give it 1 more year, and you will see what this is all about. It's no coincidence that the timing of this particular story in Luke, and he very much picked up on it, was that within that year, Jesus would die. And so we read this story in a time of Lent. Give it time, you will see. Any parent or loved one ever say to someone they care about, someday you'll know how much I love you? They can't know today, they don't understand yet, but someday you will know how much I love you. God says, someday, when I see face to face, it'll be like looking in a mirror, 1 Corinthians 13, you will know as I know. And then you will know how much I love you. Jesus is telling them that in a year I will die, and I will be resurrected, and I will come back. And we will change the world. We will outlast Rome, and we will create loving, beloved communities that will defy commercialism, that will defy things that you can buy. Stay with me one more year. Give it time. Things change. Even to this day, I think about little Anne Frank. If she had just survived in the concentration camp 2-3 more months, she would have been here today to tell her own story. Give it time. God is with you. It's okay if you're not producing fruit. It's okay if your church is gone. Most churches are a roller coaster, right? Like young people, right? They age and they come down and go back. It's okay if we're here. Give it time. Your God is with you. You are not alone. And if this time feels yucky and muddy and dirty, good. You're self-aware. It is crappy time. Hold on. Don't just cut things out of your life. Love your neighbors. Let's try not to gossip, and let's just stick at it together, working and loving. And if that isn't enough for you, and you're like, well, what else can I do this season of Lent? I have one encouragement, one hope for you this week. Think about a community and give thanks to that community. Now, I know the obvious one is church, right? Or community meal, as an example. You see the love that goes around. You give thanks to the community meal. But it doesn't have to be just that. It could be a book club that you go to, and you feel a sense of community. It could be a group of card games. I don't know, what's that game Laura's plays?
Bridge.
Bridge. It could be a bridge group, right? It could be the senior center. It could be anything. But those communities matter, do they not? They matter. Checking in with one another, talking with one another. And even if they're not quote-unquote producing fruit, stay with it. Love them. Love one another. Amen.